Hello everyone and welcome. MovieManCHAD here with my good friend Ryan. It's been a couple weeks since we actually did see a movie. I think the last movie that I saw with you. We did a review for that. And now we've just seen another film. And the movie is called Blade Runner 2049. This is the long-awaited sequel that nobody thought we were getting until a few years ago. Even though I really love the original, I don't really think it's a masterpiece. I know that's quite a controversial thing to say, but I've seen Blade Runner a few times throughout my life, a few different cuts, and when I heard this movie was going to be announced, I was very interested. Though I was worried, like, who is going to make the film? But before I start and give my opinion about the movie or explain what the movie's about, of course, I'm really not going to explain much about the movie beforehand, but before I give my opinion, how did you feel before going to see the movie? You know, the history, 35 years ago, Blade Runner came out in 1982. Go ahead.
Well, I have to say, one thing I was very happy about, one thing that Chad does is he doesn't like watching previews. So I was very happy to go to this movie and finally see it, because I was tired of Chad walking out, watching the preview of this movie and the last few movies we've seen, and I'm just like, let's just freaking see this movie already.
I did see the initial teaser that came out, I don't know if it was a year before the movie was coming out.
Yeah.
And I really, honestly, was so interested in the film for some weird reason that I just didn't want anything to be spoiled, especially when I heard that who was going to make the film, that Ridley Scott was going to step back and not make the film. And I love Ridley Scott, and I love his career, and you know, I love most of his movies. But when it was announced who was actually going to make this film, the guy who made Prisoners and Arrival and Sicario, I was like, this, from those three movies that I've seen, I think he's the perfect man for the job. So it gave me some hope. So I didn't really want anything spoiled. I didn't even want to know what the critics thought about this movie. Even my friends thought about the movie. The only thing I knew about it, of course, that Ryan Gosling was in it, Harrison Ford, you know, Dennis, whatever his name is, was going to direct it. Ridley Scott was going to step back and just put some money towards it and put his name on it as like an approval or something. And that it was 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Jared Leto.
And
Jared Leto. You knew Jared Leto was in it?
No, I didn't know. Had no idea he was in it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and there's other people that are in the film that I had no idea was in it as well. So, again, I tried to stay away from that, and I really don't want to tell any more. It's funny you mentioned Jared, but any more who actually, there's some other stars in the film as well as some unknowns and stuff like that. But a movie like this, you know, it's a movie that you thought you never were going to get, like like Star Wars. Star Wars came out in 2015.
Yeah,
we didn't find out that movie's coming out to 2013. And anybody says differently, they're idiots. But we didn't know that was coming out. So for me, when it's a movie that I didn't expect, I kind of just want to stay away from everything and just sit there and watch it. And I almost tried to see the original Blade Runner last night, and it didn't really work out. But I have seen the film in the last 10 years, and I definitely would revisit it again. I think it's a movie that is just different. Yeah. You know, it's not your typical science fiction movie. It mixes film noir and it has some action in it, but it's all really about mood and setting, you know, giving you this weird atmosphere, this creepy atmosphere. And there's some issues I have with it. I honestly don't think the film is perfect, but overall, I do think Blade Runner is one of the great science fiction movies of film history. So again, were you, you know, what is your history with Blade Runner, really quick?
Okay, so I love Blade Runner. I didn't think it was a masterpiece when I first saw it. I was very young when I first saw it.
You probably saw the cut where there was the voiceover?
Yes, actually, I did. And I remember watching it with my dad, and I didn't quite understand the movie, but it was so hypnotizing. The music of Vangelis, just to this day, he's one of my favorite composers and artists because of this movie. It changed the whole view of music for me. And so I really enjoyed that. That's what really stuck with me in the umbrellas with the neon lights. I remember that as
the production design and the special effects and stuff like that.
You know, I didn't really understand that it was about replicas and androids and stuff like that, because they looked normal to me. I just thought they were strong people. So, but I enjoyed it because of the music and the atmosphere. You know, it was a dark movie. There wasn't a lot of sunshine. I don't think there was really any sunshine in the original. Yeah. And it was a movie that really affected me and really with up there with Star Wars with me that helped me really enjoy sci-fi. And so that was my history, and I've watched all the cuts. I watched this about 6 months ago. I think I watched the
final cut.
Yeah, the final cut.
Unless they come up with the final cut.
The finalist, the final cut. To the 9th degree, something like that. But I'm a sucker for it. I'd still watch it again, and so that was my history with it.
Yeah, so that's how we felt about going to see the movie. We were excited. I didn't feel the movie before watching it was like, did this really need to happen? I was kind of happy that this was happening and done by the right people. Now that we have walked out of the theater, we saw it in XD, not 3D, not IMAX. We saw it, you know, large screen, great sound. Now that we walked down it, Ryan, how do you feel about Blade Runner 2049?
Well, Chad, I have to say, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
And I'm almost ready to like, oh, okay, we're gonna have a real debate about this, a discussion.
I loved it.
Oh well, sorry guys.
I'm sorry. I had to put some dramatic, you know, intense feeling into that. I loved it. I loved the music. I definitely felt the tie-in with the director. It sounded like some of the Arrival music, you know, those heavy overtones that were in there. I felt it, and it brought up these memories. But you know, Evangelist had nothing really to do with it. But Hans
Zimmer and another composer wrote the score.
Wrote the score.
A really great score.
It was fantastic.
That does, I think, a few times, maybe once, tip its hat to the original score.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't overthrow you over like probably Alien Covenant did. It was like, here's the score from Jerry Goldsmith.
Yep, exactly.
So if you don't like the movie, here's the score from Jerry Goldsmith.
Exactly. So I did feel the tip of the cap. It was unique, but it was triggering those feelings when I saw it as a child. Just those dark overtones, just the sci-fi. I felt like I was in the future. The acting was fantastic. The story, fantastic. It was fantastic. I loved it, Chad. There's some things that I didn't like some of the dialogue was really kind of hard to understand. And I was like, one of those old men with the hearing aid. I just couldn't quite make it out.
How about the story? Predictable? Did it have a questioning some things, and then some things were like, I thought it was going to go that way?
Well, okay, so I'm terrible to watch movies with because I figure them out. And this one, I thought I had it figured out.
And you're very humble about it, right?
I am. I'm very humble about it. My wife hates watching movies with me because I'm always like, hey, it's that guy. She's like, gosh darn it, Ryan, stop talking.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't do that.
I didn't do that. I was tempted to.
Please don't ever.
I was tempted, but I know Movie Man here would slap me silly and never see a movie with me again. But this one, I kind of got it, but I was super happy with it. I like the story. I really did. Some of the characters, like, okay, all right, okay, that may be unnecessary, but I don't want to blow it for you guys. I enjoyed it. I loved it. When it comes out, I'm gonna buy it. I might even go see it in 3D again. I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, someone who does have a fondness for the original film, and I've seen a few cuts of the movie and love what the movie was trying to do. Of course, during that time, it wasn't really accepted as it is right now. Because at the time, 1982, when you see Harrison Ford on the big screen, you know you're going to get swashbuckling and sword fights and excitement, and he's going to grab a whip maybe, but this was something that was completely different. Of course, the studio had no idea what they were putting out there, so they put not a laugh track, but narration, which kind of doesn't work at all. No. And that's a cut that I haven't seen in years. Though I'd be interested to watch it again, since on the Blu-ray they have like all 5 cuts. There's 5 cuts of the film, I believe, 4 or 5. But I think now time has passed. The movie has found its audience. It's so beloved. I mean, people I know worship the ground that it walks on. For me, maybe a movie like this that I do worship, that's science fiction, maybe Clockwork Orange. something that's dreary and dark in the sci-fi world. So I don't know if it, for me, it doesn't live up to those kind of movies. But overall, I just like that it was different. Now with the new one, since I was more mentally prepared, I knew what we were going to get into. I didn't go into the movie expecting an action movie. I didn't actually want an action movie. You get a little bit of action in the movie, but this is not an action movie. The movie does not rely on action. It actually tries to be something of its own. I almost feel like it tries to be its own movie. It is its own movie. It did feel like it was its own movie. It didn't rely on, to me, it didn't rely that much on the original. Yes, it hints upon the original, and there's stuff that happened in the original that affects this movie, of course, and it's in the same universe, but I felt like it stood alone on its own merits, and I loved the fact that it's nearly 3 hours. I could have watched another half an hour of this film. I just feel like it really took its time. It never dragged. I never felt the length of the film. I was interested in Ryan Gosling, even though I felt like he was playing just another version of Ryan Gosling. But I like Ryan Gosling as an actor. I like the chemistry that he has with his love interest. I don't want to say too much, but his love interest, I liked that. I like the mood that was set. Again, it feels like it's a relative of the original film, but it's somehow it feels like it's just a little distant from it, because I think it's trying, like any sequel that succeeds, it's trying to pay respect to the original film, but then try and be something on its own. I don't know if they're going, it depends on if this movie makes money, of course, if it's going to spawn another film, though I don't know. I almost want to wait, like, you know, of course Harrison Ford's getting older, but I almost want to wait years before we actually get another film where they rush, and then the third film comes out and it sucks, you know, because they rushed into it. This one actually took time. It is a movie that actually wasn't going to exist and probably stayed in some executive's mind for a while, like, you know, we still have this property, Blade Runner, maybe we should use it. And over time, I don't know how long this film was actually in production, because they didn't really tell us, the public, that was going to exist, you know, within the, you know, I think within the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, you know, and so the direction, Dennis, is just one of the best, and I'm so glad he did this film. I'm so glad that the great Ridley Scott did not direct this movie, because you all see what happened with Alien Covenant. He takes a property that people love and just goes out of his mind. I think he's just getting older, and he's a great director. The movie Alien Covenant is just just mixed bag. And there's stuff I love about it, there's stuff I don't, and in the end, it's just kind of makes it's a decent film, I guess. Maybe I'm being more forgiving because I just love aliens, but I'm glad that he stepped away, and new blood got in. It's what I love, that Star Wars, new blood is getting into Star Wars. You know, George Lucas has stepped back, of course, price tag, but he stepped back and he's let someone else take over his work, and that's what I loved about this movie, that someone else got to examine the film. And I think the same direct the film, the same screenwriters from the original. I don't know if he's still alive, or he had an old script, or they had an old script or ideas to where it was going to go. He's attached to it, so people who worked on the original are part of this film, and people that are new blood are working on this film. I also want to mention that the cinematography done by the wonderful Roger Deakins, even though I don't care about the Oscars anymore, I gave up with the Oscars, even though I will watch them. I just don't care too much about it. But Roger Deakins is one of the best cinematographers. He may be the best cinematographer, and this movie is a prime example of his genius.
Absolutely.
And he's been nominated for 1 million times, and he's never won an Oscar. I think it's about time you give this guy an Oscar, even though Oscars don't mean crap anymore. But I think, you know, he deserves the award. It's a great looking film. It's not the easiest movie to watch because of certain things that are, you know, I like the original. There's things that don't seem like they're explained enough. But that's okay, because you want to go into a movie, you want some things to make sense, and then you want other things to be thought about on your own. And that's what I really enjoyed about this movie, and I love about the original, is that there's things that are left to the imagination. You know, there's a lot of lots of talking in this movie. So, like the original, what's the word?
Dialogue?
Not dialogue, but you know, when you're a thinker, you're a philosopher.
Yes.
You know, everybody's like thinking. You know, even more probably with like Jared Leto. His character's just loves to talk and
Shakespearean.
And so that, I think that's probably hints to the original.
To be or not to be.
Yeah. But overall, I thought this was a fabulous film. with a lot of interesting things to add on from the original. Tried a movie that succeeded being on its own and gave us the reason, like, I'm glad there is now a sequel, and it's an amazing sequel to the original Blade Runner. And I think it will give some satisfaction. People who would loved the first one and probably think that first one was a masterpiece. I think they'll at least think this movie is a great continuation of the story, and something that they were probably really worried about. I mean, probably like praying that this movie would not even get made, because they probably worship that film. And I can understand. There's movies like that I don't want to see a sequel to that movie. I don't want to see a sequel to that movie. You know, there's some movies that just don't really need sequels, and sometimes they're made. And this is a case where this movie doesn't need a sequel. Blade Runner honestly it's a movie on its own. It doesn't really need a sequel. It's not a perfect film in my eyes, but it's a movie that just stands on its own, and it's just an interesting piece of cinema in a great period of time when movies were made, you know, before CGI and all that stuff with practical and effects. But now that this movie exists, I couldn't live in the world without it, really. It's just interesting like that. So again, all the technical stuff, just fabulous. Some of the story is a little predictable at times, but then there were some surprises, like, oh, okay, so maybe that's not it. So I was definitely questioning what I was watching, and in the end, I understood a lot. I did not understand a lot as well. And I appreciate that. I don't feel like I was cheated. And I think what really helped is that the movie did give time. In this day and age, most things that are very successful now are television shows, where we get like a whole arc and a whole season. We actually really get to know the characters. I'm really glad this movie, if this movie was like an hour and a half or 2 hours, it wouldn't have gotten the time to really invest into what's going to happen, to lay out all the rules and break some of them, and stand up to some of them, and then give you a somewhat satisfying ending. It
wouldn't work.
It wouldn't have worked.
Not at all.
So I'm glad that they really accepted the length of this film, because sometimes studios are like, we can't put it in theaters, it's got 2 hours, and we can't put it in theaters longer enough, you know, enough time to make all this money. But they really, I think, they listened to I'm guessing Warner Brothers and Columbia listened to the fans, hopefully, I guess, and they decided to really take the time to develop a story. And I think the director, Dennis, had a lot of pressure, and he lived up to that pressure, he succeeded, and he made a wonderful film, and a film that's going to stay with me, and a film that I can't wait to see again.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I'm gonna go see it again. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy the director's cut. I'm gonna buy the final.
I hope there's just one 20th. Cut of this movie. I hope there's just one cut of this movie. I don't think there needs to be another cut, though I would like to see if there's maybe some deleted scenes. That'd be fun to watch a deleted scene. But
that's what I meant.
You know, I don't know where it's gonna go from here. Are they gonna try, if it's successful? Of course, you know, the Hollywood masses will be like, how can we make more? We should make more of these and make money. But I just think a story like this shouldn't be rushed.
Absolutely.
It should be given some long, tender, loving care, because this is just something, again, that's continually different from science fiction movies, especially we're getting now, or we've gotten in the past. It's a different take.
Absolutely.
It calls back for a different time, and I just appreciate that, and I enjoyed it for that, and I'm glad that it stuck to its guns and didn't just turn into a dumb action movie.
I agree. You know, my expectations going into this movie, I was trying to set them lower than originally, because I was so disappointed by Alien Covenant. I had such high hopes for that, and I didn't want to be let down by Ridley again. And I know he was taking a step back, but I was still fearful, and I had to say I was just blown away. I'm so happy, and for me personally, I have to give this a very high rating. I would say 3.5 out of 4 stars for me. Yeah,
I'd give it a solid 3.5 out of 4 stars as well. It may go up. That's about, you know, it's, I can't right now say which one's better, which ones do I like more. It all depends on, as time will tell, and how many and as I watch it again, will I appreciate it more than I did? Because I think it's with the original Blade Runner, every time you watch it, you appreciate it more and more and more. Maybe not on a story level or a character level, but just the visuals. I think I just think that the movie just has so much interesting things to offer, the eyes and the ears and the mind, especially the mind. And now I don't know what else to say. I'm done.
I'm spent too. Thank you.
All right, you want to plug your son really quick, and then we'll go?
Yes, check out my son on YouTube. It's Creeper DJ of Games. He does Pokemon review of cards and stuff. He does video game review. And a quick go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and vote for Depeche Mode.
I'll probably edit that out.
No!
Now in the comment box below, let us know what you thought of Blade Runner 2049. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye, and we'll see you at the next movie review.
Adios!
Bye!